All right, so with us for this one is the Athletic's leading transfer reporter, David Ornstein, and our Everton correspondent, Paddy Boyland, as well. David, let's start with you. Tell us about Manchester United's bid for Jarrad Branthwaite last week and whether United are actually prepared to improve their offer after the first one was actually declined, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is one that has been bubbling for a while. We know that Manchester United were among the clubs interested in Jarrad Branthwaite. And no surprise, absolutely sensational impact that he's made so far. It was a really good recruit from Carlisle a few years ago by Everton. And he's developed very nicely, had a season on loan at PSV Eindhoven, and a fantastic campaign last time round. I was at the Emirates on the final day of the season, and he really shone. He was very commanding performance against Arsenal in the air, on the floor. His presence, his personality. It wasn't a great surprise to me that he got included in the England provisional squad for the Euros. Maybe a bit harsh that he didn't make the final cut for the tournament. But it was fully expected that some of the clubs who have been tracking him would manifest their interest in offers. And it's Manchester United who stepped forward on Friday. I think it was a desire of the new Ineos-led regime to move early and sort of make their mark on this transfer window, which of course is their first since becoming minority owners of Manchester United. And I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to show that it's a departure from the previous regime and that they're quite quick and efficient and determined to get their business done. And so they came in with an offer. Now, it's important to sort of outline that Manchester United are in quite a tight spot, financial fair play, profitability and sustainability. And that's going to limit the funds that they've got to spend this summer. That also provides some context to the actual proposal that was put forward, which was a bid of £35 million, £8 million in add-ons, depending on who you speak to. They're either completely unrealistic or some of them are unrealistic and some of them more realistic. And some people even say that they're all achievable because they rate Jarrad Branthwaite that highly because it would relate to team and individual performances. However, none of that is anywhere near Everton's valuation of a player that they would only consider parting with for in excess of £70 million. It's the sort of bracket that Harry Maguire and Josko Gvardiol and Wesley Fofana moved for. And he's in that same part of the pitch, left-sided central defender. They're in quite short supply. He's got all the attributes, the personality, the homegrown status as well. And it was no surprise to anybody that Everton didn't take well to that proposal. It's fair to say it was rejected pretty swiftly. From Manchester United's point of view, they would sort of say that that's the beginning of the process. And this is just sort of entry level. And then let's see what the negotiations bring. But that's the big question. Is it going to go further or is it going to fall flat on its face?
Yeah, Paddy, I saw you smirk at the 35 million mark. It's all good. We get it. What more can you tell us about Everton's stance on Braithwaite's future?
Yeah, I don't think, as David has said, that there was any surprise that Manchester United came forward with an offer for him. I think that was probably expected, Everton's side. But the offer itself, when it came, I think was deemed entirely unrealistic for a player of Branthwaite's current ability and potential as well. I think there's definitely something in what David's saying about Manchester United wanting to show that this is a new regime where they don't pay overly inflated values. I also think as well that they're probably just trying to steal a march on the competition here because Branthwaite is a player who is likely over the next 12 months or so to attract considerable interest from Europe's elite clubs. Not long ago, Carlo Ancelotti obviously was manager of Everton, and it was his assistant, son as an assistant, Davide, who saw Branthwaite playing in Everton's under-21s and quickly promoted him as a 17-year-old into the first team. Carlo Ancelotti gave him his debut. So people at Real Madrid like Jarrad Branthwaite as a player. I would not be surprised if other clubs like Manchester City were keeping an eye on his progress. So I would see this for what it is, which is a very low initial offer, but with the potential for Manchester United to come back to the table. They're just going to have to go an awful lot higher to get near what Everton want. And maybe this was just an attempt to test the water and see just how desperate Everton's financial situation was. Now, if that is the case, then they've got their answer now. Everton don't need to sell, certainly not at this price.
Mm. Yeah, David, I mean, Everton clearly sitting on an asset there. Can you just take us into the world of transfers, especially through this period? We've got the Euros happening at this moment in time. Does that help teams like Manchester United for a player who hasn't gone to the Euros to try and move in quickly before all the others get their hands on him?
Yeah, maybe that plays a little element in this, but I think it's more what Paddy said about just trying to steal a march in general. It was the opening day of the window, and bang, there was the offer. And you knew it was coming because in the days preceding it, reports broke that Manchester United had agreed personal terms with Jarrad Branthwaite. Obviously, that's doing it the wrong way round legally, but we don't know about permissions, and we kind of know how this industry works in that conversations take place, and personal terms wouldn't expect to be a problem. That may say to Jarrad Branthwaite and his camp that, they really want us. It's flattering, and they followed it up with an offer. Yeah, it was low. Some may say derisory, but others may say at least they put their money where their mouths are, and started the dance, so to speak. And let's see. We included him in this week's deal sheet as one to watch this week, just to see whether Manchester United come back in with a new proposal yet. I suspect the conversations between the clubs have continued in some form, dialogue, feedback, that they've got a decent relationship as far as I know, even though there are new personnel on the Manchester United side. And I don't think Manchester United will just leave the scene on a player that they've done so much work on. I started to hear about their admiration for him months ago, that he was very high on their list of centre-back targets, if not the top one, and there will be others. And you would think they can go higher with what they have, even a limited budget. But then also, if they start to make sales as the window goes on, that could impact on their finances as well. Paddy touches on a key point here. Everton don't intend to sell Jarrad Branthwaite. They want to keep him. They think he's happy at the club and prepared at his age and stage of his journey to stay a bit longer, to move into the new stadium with them, and then let's see what the future brings. And at the same time, yes, they have a PSR issue that's been well documented. I'm not sure it's as big as some people think because of the cost cutting they've managed to do in recent times. And that immediately leads to the idea that they could solve that problem through other means, by maybe shifting academy players before this 30th of June cutoff, by looking at other parts of the first team squad. I don't think they want to use Jarrad Branthwaite as that saviour. And if they can keep him, they will. And that will embolden them to stick to their valuation. If someone comes and meets it, fair play. Back to your original point. Yeah, the Euros does complicate matters for many clubs and players in terms of availability for talks, for medicals to take place. But it's not a complete impediment. There can be conversations with representatives and club to club. There can be conversations with some players if you're able to access them when they're not tied up with training and matches at the Euros, and if their coaches don't put a block on it, the national team coaches. But obviously, it's not ideal logistically with the Euros and with the Copa America right now as well. So that can, make these processes a little bit more complicated. But, if Manchester United are going to continue the pursuit of Jarrad Branthwaite, I don't think it will be detrimentally impacted by the European Championship.
Yeah, Paddy, I'm just wondering what makes him so desirable to Manchester United in particular and their style of football. He's played a lot of Premier League football, and I know he was also won the Dutch Cup at PSV when he was playing in the Dutch league. But, Erik ten Hag notoriously says he wants to make Manchester United the best transitioning team in the Premier League. Does he fit into that kind of style?
I think absolutely he does. He's every inch the modern centre back and the modern Premier League centre back, and in the sense that he can push high up the pitch, he can win the ball high up the pitch. He's very aggressive in the way he looks to play. I go back to a goal Everton scored against West Ham earlier in the season, where he knocked Michail Antonio off the ball in midfield, played a pass into Jack Harrison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin finished off the move. He's very comfortable defending in space, 6'4", but quick for his size, very quick across the ground, and has done a wonderful job covering the space between the centre back and the left back at Everton. Very, very competent in that area. Where I've been really impressed by him is in his attitude and his ability to weather a very challenging first Premier League season. Because that's what it is for him. He's played before at Everton in fits and starts. He went out on loan to he went out on loan to Blackburn, which was a very challenging loan for him, and he got injured. Then he went to PSV and had a very successful loan. But last season was the first full year of Jarrad Branthwaite as a regular Premier League starter. And when you consider all of Everton's problems last year, the PSR issues, the swirl of speculation around takeover bids and potential administration, all those kind of things, he just slotted in seamlessly, and he was Everton's best player. He won the Players' Player of the Year award, voted for by his peers at the end of the campaign. So I think he's got everything you want, and I think the additional icing on the cake here is that he is a left-sided centre-back capable of playing out on his left foot. We saw how much England struggled in the opening game of the Euros, playing out on that side, and the lack of balance in the team as a result. Well, he offers that solution. So you've got more or less a complete package here, and at 21, somebody who is going to get better. So for those reasons, I think Everton are absolutely justified to value him in excess of £70 million. David's named three players there in Gvardiol, Harry Maguire and Wesley Fofana, who have all done well, but they weren't the finished product when they went to the clubs. And Bradthwaite's in that bracket as well. You're banking on his ability right now and his potential to get even better. So to me, he feels like one of Europe's coming men as a centre-back. Next cab off the rank. We've got some top centre backs right now, but he's the one that could replace them in the years to come.
David, very quickly, also, I mean, Branthwaite's not going to be the only player on the lips of many Premier League clubs to pick off from Everton. Onana, another one, currently player at the Euros, a very tall, robust central midfielder that's on the lips of many clubs across Europe as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to add on that. Manchester United, under their new sporting control of Ineos, and with all these new sporting directors and technical directors, some of whom are still yet to take their positions, I think they're not only going to want to show a difference in terms of how quickly and efficiently they try to go about their business, but also in the negotiations and transfer processes themselves. So it was explained to me that you might see them go in for players domestically on the continent and make some offers and end up pulling out, not sort of absolutely on purpose to make a stand to show we're the new regime with Manchester United and we're going to be more disciplined and show greater restraint within the process, a bit more savvy. But a bit of that, it almost to draw a line in the sand after we saw the the expense committed to somebody like Anthony and Casemiro. United want to be in the mix for these players, and they're going to push clearly, but not to unreasonable levels. One, they might not be able to financially, but two, I think the impression that the new people running this operation want to send out is that we are going to improve our ways, and we have seen what has maybe been perceived to have gone wrong in the past, and it won't continue. In terms of other players at Everton, I understand that Amadou Onana is one who they would be willing to part with if the finances are right, whether that's before June 30 or after, because as I mentioned, the Everton PSR problem is not believed to be astronomical. But in many cases, we say clubs do not want their players to have a good European Championship or World Cup or Copa America because it will alert suitors who had already been looking at them or who weren't aware of them to this player, and suddenly they might want to try and come and snap them up. In this case, I think Everton would quite like him to have a good tournament. There are already clubs looking at him, and this might be the sort of competition where they say, okay, this is one we've already considered, not just, oh, we like him because of tournament performance, which is always dangerous, but actually he's shown us there that he is somebody we're ready to commit the money on. And so, we've seen many clubs linked with Onana. I hear that there is a Champions League club that is very closely monitoring the situation. I don't know if that's in the Premier League or abroad. And I think it's one that Everton would be more willing to listen to than Branthwaite. And it could, of course, raise significant finance. Now, you've got to weigh up in the PSR what his book value is now, because they committed quite a lot on him in the first place. And so they'll have to go, quite high to extract a significant profit, but there is profit to be gained. He's a really good player, club and international level. And so that's one that we need to keep an eye on. So is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who clubs do like. He's been linked with many over the months and even years. He's been troubled by injury, but when he plays, we know what he can do. There's no new contract signed yet, and he's in a position where the supply does not meet the demand. And so, again, pay close attention to his situation. And then, as I mentioned before, the younger bracket, Everton have some good assets who reluctantly, I'm sure, they could trade to fill whatever financial hole needs to be filled.
All right, let's move on to other Everton news, because the Friedkin Group, the Texas-based owner of Italian side AS Roma, are the strong favourites to buy Everton. What's the current status of this, Paddy?
I think we're just waiting now for confirmation that this is over the final hurdle. The Friedkin Group emerged as very strong favourites to purchase Everton last week, and we're very close to securing agreement with the current owner, Farhad Moshiri. There's been a little bit of tumbleweed since those events and what we've got now. And I think that final step is just making sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and everyone's in a position to announce this. So not over the line just yet, but they definitely were and are favourites. And Everton fans are starting to look at this and think, from where we were a few months ago, 777 kind of stalled takeover just rumbling on, and all these worries of cash flow. The idea that a guy that's worth £6 billion would be interested in coming in and helping sort out the situation at the club is pretty appealing. So let's wait and see how this develops, but certainly positive developments at the end of last week.
Okay, nice one, Paddy. Well, I know you've got to go. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll speak to you some more through the Euros as well. Cheers, brother. Right, let's get back to the deal sheet, David. Bring us up to speed on, the situation with a really interesting young centre-back, Lenny Yoro from Lille. A few takers here, aren't there?
This is a rare talent that has marked himself out as being one of the most wanted young men in European football. He's still a teenager, and we need to respect that fact. We've just been talking about Jarrad Branthwaite being in demand. He's a few years senior, but it's rare for centre-backs at such an embryonic stage of their careers to be playing regularly in one of Europe's top divisions, and Lenny Yoro is. And that has not gone unnoticed among suitors across the continent. And I'll come on to that in a moment. He is approaching the final 12 months of his contract at Lille, which is not an ideal situation for them. And so decisions need to be made across the board. Are they going to sell now? And they can, because there are takers. What price are they going to put on his head to sell now? Does he sit it out and wait to sign a pre-contract agreement with an overseas club in January to join in the summer of 2025 as a free agent and all the lucrative benefits that come with that? Of course, Lille would not want to lose him for free. And so perhaps if they don't get the deal they want right now, this runs towards the end of the window, and maybe they reduce their asking price and cut a deal in one form or another. In terms of those suitors, he's long been heavily linked with Real Madrid, and the consensus among the clubs who want him in, say, the Premier League, which is Manchester United, Liverpool, and others, of course, admire him, is that he will end up at Real Madrid, that they are the firm favourites to sign Lenny Yoro. Real Madrid, typically coy on these sorts of things. They say it's not one we're going for at this moment in time. Let's see how the window develops, maybe later with more money and clarity on our squad planning. We're not going to pay the sort of money, which is said to be about 60 million euros that Lille want. I remember similar noises coming out of Real Madrid ahead of signing Jude Bellingham. They played it down, then executed the transaction. In terms of the other interested parties, that's fascinating, because if Real Madrid are not going for it just yet, then in not too dissimilar way to what you asked me about Manchester United and Branthwaite, are they trying to steal a march? Manchester United. Well, are Liverpool, Manchester United trying to steal a march on Lenny Yoro? Maybe, yeah. Maybe they're trying to get their set their stall out, get in there with Lille, with the representatives of Yoro, which I think is Gestafoot, George Mendes, and make it clear that they want him. They want him not so much as part of their overall transfer strategy, but as a unique market opportunity, certainly in the case of Liverpool. So it's not going to be, if we don't get Lenny Yoro, we go to a plan B. It's just that in isolation, he is a target for them for the here and now and for the future, irrespective of any other transfer activity. With Manchester United, it is, of course, a position, as we know, that they are looking to strengthen in specifically. So he would fit into that. But I don't think it would stop them pursuing the Branthwaites of this world, because Yoro, if he wants to come to you and you can strike a deal with Lille, you do it. So they're all realistic. They're all pushing hard. It's got to be said. There's no two ways about that. They are keen to do this deal, and they're actively working on it, but with the acceptance that when push comes to shove, and when Real Madrid want these players, like a Bellingham, a Tchouaméni, a Camavinga, the list goes on, they tend to end up signing them.
Yeah, is there a reason from your perspective why so many teams, top teams, are going so young in that respect? Because actually some of these young players are getting a lot of football. Endrick going to Real Madrid. I mean, that kid's played a lot of football and international level as well. Why is it now we're looking at, I mean, maybe the last few years in general, they're going so young and they're going for top money?
Yeah, they're trying to find the next big thing in every position. They're trying to extract maximum value, longevity. There's no value in signing an older player with a big transfer fee and a big salary, and probably a big agent commission as well. At the other end of the scale, you've got years ahead of them. You've got a lower transfer fee and lower salary. I'm not so sure about the agent commission, but it should be a bit lower if the fee and the salary are. And so, it's just pure economics as well as the digging for the next gem. I remember doing a feature years ago on the Africa Cup of Nations and how Premier League clubs were increasingly sending their recruitment teams, their scouts, their analysts out there and getting footage in from those tournaments that perhaps they weren't all doing so in the past, because of this absolute wealth of talent that's emerging in these markets and parts of the world, and from these competitions. And they're getting younger and younger. You're hearing of more money being spent at academy level, whether it be regional, say London, or the Northwest, Northeast, Midlands, and so on. Post-Brexit, with the complications that has of bringing European talent to England at a young age, because you have to wait until 18, means that there's ever more competition domestically. And yeah, the kids are all right. And when they're given their head and their opportunities, many of them are showing that they've got what it takes to compete with grown men. Lamine Yamal at the Euros for Spain, and so many more examples. England's inspiration, the 20-year-old Jude Bellingham so far. And that's nothing new. We saw Wayne Rooney doing it. We've seen countless Brazilian stars for some of the biggest clubs in the world. And yeah, there will always be an older player when you're looking for some maturity and experience, a proven trophy winner, a good leader, maybe a market opportunity that has developed a bit late or represents good value, a Moneyball type thing. But more and more, the key is seen as capturing these starlets early and developing them to be great assets for you in terms of players, but also potential mechanisms for raising funds through trading in the future.
Okay, let's finish on this one because Wolves have been doing some interesting business. Last week, you broke that they signed Rodrigo Gomez from Braga on a 5-year deal, and now it's been confirmed they've gone to Brazil for another young one, Pedro Lima as well.
Yeah, we're talking about all the youngsters today.
Yeah.
And this is another one who's said to be a star in the making. No pressure there, but he has got rave reviews. And all of the media coverage seemed to have been about Chelsea are closing in on a deal. They've got it agreed. And I think they did go far, and they had things in principle. But Wolves have sort of come out of nowhere for this very talented young right back who plays at Sport Recife or Recife Sport. Forgive me if I've got that the wrong way around. And managed to agree a deal club to club and with the player. And so if all goes to plan, and that's an if, because you need to get these agreements put on paper and inked and everything progress as you want it to, then he will fly over on the 1st of July, I think it is, when he'll have turned 18 and be able to come and undergo a medical and complete that move to Wolves. Let's see if Chelsea come back in and offer to increase the terms. I'd be a little bit surprised, because if you've got your deal in place already and then somebody comes and gazumps you for a player at this level, does it leave a bit of a bad taste? Let's see what the coming days bring. But yeah, that's a really interesting one. It's important to say that Chelsea would have been signing him for Strasbourg initially. Their sort of Blueco sister club or club within the ownership group. This was not to sign for and play for Chelsea immediately. I think if that had been the case, then I'd not expect Chelsea to have lost out to Wolves, with total respect. But it was the path that they had for him would have been Strasbourg first. And maybe that presented an opportunity for Wolves to nip in and get this done, if indeed they get it done. And it goes to show that it's not always the biggest beasts in this market that win the day, and other Premier League clubs have financial power of their own and connections, and they work hard and they scout and they build the relationships for moments like this. Let's see how it finishes, but certainly that was a twist that was a little bit unexpected when Recife released their statement, and we were quick to notice that and put out a story of our own. And yeah, it shows you in this transfer world, you don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah, I love it. Well, David, thanks so much for joining us, and definitely look forward to hearing more of your transfer news as the summer goes on. Go off and enjoy the Euros, mate. Some good games on today.
Thank you.
All right, nice one. Well, also thank you to Paddy as well, who had to leave us a little earlier. Don't forget to review the podcast. Check out the deal sheet available right now on The Athletic. You can also go to the Totally Football podcast for reaction to all today's games at the Euros, and also our daily football briefing show for a bite-sized wrap-up in the morning. We'll be back tomorrow for a deep dive into one of the day's biggest stories. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to watch more episodes of the show, please subscribe to the channel. We'll be joined by the likes of David Ornstein, Matt Slater, Adam Crafton, Carl Anker, and plenty more through the season. If you'd like to listen to the episodes in full in audio form, search The Athletic FC wherever you get your podcasts from.